were in love. They prayed together. They planned forever. But then the bills arrived, and suddenly every conversation became an argument. Not because they hated each other, but because they were both afraid. This is the story every young married couple needs to hear before money destroys what love built. Daniel met Mira during their final year at a local college. He was quiet, thoughtful, and determined. She was gentle, expressive, and hopeful about life. They bonded over small dreams, running a business together one day, owning a modest home, building a peaceful family. When Daniel proposed, he had no ring, just a promise. Mira said yes without hesitation. Their wedding was simple: borrowed chairs, home, cooked food, smiles that didn't depend on decoration. Everyone said, "You can see the love." Love, however, does not pay rent. The first few months felt manageable. Daniel worked long hours at a small logistics company. Mira tried selling handmade items online while applying for jobs. Bills began arriving faster than opportunities: rent, food, transport, electricity. They started saying phrases they never imagined would appear in their marriage. "Let's postpone it. We can't afford that. Maybe next month." Money didn't argue loudly at first. It whispered, and whispers are dangerous because couples ignore them until they grow into screams. Daniel began withdrawing. He stopped talking much at dinner. He stared at the wall longer. He carried guilt like a second skin because society had taught him that a man's worth is measured by provision. Mira noticed the change but didn't know how to help. She tried encouragement, but encouragement without solutions sometimes sounds like pressure. When she suggested budgeting, Daniel felt criticized. When she suggested help from family, Daniel felt ashamed. They loved each other, but they stopped understanding each other, and misunderstanding is where resentment quietly lives. Financial struggles in young marriages rarely stay private. Friends began comparing progress. Relatives asked uncomfortable questions. Social media showed smiling couples traveling, building homes, announcing pregnancies. Mira began feeling behind. Daniel began feeling judged. Some people offered advice that felt more like condemnation. "You married too early. You should have waited until you were stable. Love is not enough." Each comment became a brick on their emotional chest. The fight didn't start with money. It started with groceries. Daniel came home late one evening, exhausted, only to discover Mira had bought something slightly beyond their budget. Nothing extravagant, just something she hoped would bring comfort. Daniel snapped. Words flew sharp, careless, and heavy. Mira cried not because of the money, but because for the first time she felt like a burden instead of a partner. That night, they slept facing opposite walls. Silence filled the room louder than shouting ever could. The next morning, Mira didn't speak much. Daniel went to work carrying regret, but not knowing how to apologize without feeling weak. But something shifted inside him. For the first time, he realized their problem wasn't money. It was how money was changing the way they treated each other. They were fighting the wrong enemy. That evening, Daniel came home early. He didn't bring solutions. He didn't bring excuses. He brought honesty. He admitted he felt like he was failing. He admitted he was scared. He admitted he didn't know how to fix everything alone. Mira listened. Then she spoke too about feeling lonely, unseen, and emotionally abandoned. For the first time in months, they didn't argue. They understood. They decided on 3 rules. Money would never be discussed with anger. No secrets about finances. No blaming, only planning. They wrote down every expense, painful but freeing. They cut unnecessary costs, not joy, but excess. They agreed to live below their means, not ashamed of it, and slowly the pressure began to loosen. Mira took a short course online to improve her skills. Daniel started freelancing on weekends despite exhaustion. They shared progress not as competition but as collaboration. Some days were discouraging, some weeks felt stagnant, but they celebrated small wins, paid bills on time, saved a tiny amount, went 1 week without arguing about money. Victory doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like peace. Money problems leave emotional scars. They learn to check in emotionally, not just financially. How are you coping? What are you afraid of? What do you need from me right now? They laughed again, real laughter. They remembered why they chose each other. Months later, Mira secured a steady job. Not glamorous, not high-paying, but stable. Daniel received a promotion not because life suddenly became fair, but because consistency eventually speaks. Their situation didn't change overnight, but hope returned. And hope is powerful. They learned that financial problems don't mean marital failure. Pride delays solutions. Communication is more valuable than income. Unity multiplies effort. Love must mature to survive pressure. Money tested them, but it didn't defeat them. Daniel and Mira's marriage survived not because they avoided financial problems, but because they faced them together. If you are in a young marriage struggling financially, remember this: you are not weak, you are not behind, you are not failing, you are learning. And learning together is how marriages last. Money comes and goes. Jobs change, circumstances shift. But when two people choose understanding over ego, unity over blame, and patience over pressure, no financial storm can destroy their home. This channel exists for couples navigating real-life marriage, money stress, communication breakdowns, emotional distance, and healing. Subscribe so you don't miss future videos designed to educate, strengthen, and restore marriages.